Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome and thanks for being here. Before I start, just want to show you I'm repping my new Cardiac Cards merch they gave me last week. So shout out to Sam and the guys down there at Apex at Cardiac Cards. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, stepfathers, and really anyone else who has stepped up as a father figure to someone in your life. Just shout out to all you guys today. Enjoy the day, right? Here in Connecticut, they were forecasting rain all week for Sunday, but it's like a last minute break. The sun is out, it's in the 80s. It's a nice day out. In fact, I had to come in out of the sun, out of working around the yard, and put this together for you guys because I have family coming over. Looking forward to the family coming over. Gonna throw some steaks and salmon on the grill. Put the U.S. Open on in the background, and just hang out. It's gonna be a good time. It's going to be a great end to a somewhat down weekend. And when I say down weekend, you'll understand as I go through what I'm saying. But do you ever feel like when everything's going well, and you're so excited just to do the next thing and the next thing, just to keep going because things are going so well, and then all of a sudden you get let down? It's not as great as you thought. The next thing just wasn't as great. That didn't work out the way you planned. And then all of a sudden you feel somewhat disappointed. And then people would look at you and be like, really, you're disappointed because that, didn't work out. But when you get into this frenzy of something and everything's going your way, you just expect the W's to keep rolling in. And when they don't roll in, you're like, oh man. Right. And I think we all feel that way. And this is kind of how the weekend turned out for me, right? Thursday's episode, the final push to the National, just super excited for the National. It can't come fast enough, right? And I think most people I've talked to, I've run into a bunch of people since then. I've talked to people online, messaging with people online, people reaching out. Everyone's so excited for it. It's like it can't come fast enough, right? And it's like this frenzy, this whole frenzy that's really being pulled into like this whirlwind, and rolling into this weekend. I had plans to meet up with a few people at a local card show on Saturday. I actually had a wedding to go to Friday night. So Thursday night, I got all my cards ready, right? Got my case together, got my cards all in there. Friday night I went to a wedding, got up early Saturday, was heading over to the show. Cards ready to go, cash heavy. That's kind of the way I roll when I head to these cards, especially now, at this time of year. Looking for some last minute pickups for that national inventory. And I will say up front, it was a great show for most people. It was crowded. People were buying. It was a great show. In fact, I was surprised, and I'm just pointing this out because this happened at two separate tables I was at, to see two Jordan Love RPAs sell at two different tables, to two different people for over $500 each. I was surprised. I just don't see that much hype in him, but apparently some people do. So I was surprised to see that. But I just felt that there was nothing there for me. I walked the room 3 times. I walked once by myself when I showed up. Then I had plans to meet up with my friend Jordan, Zips Cards. We walked the room. And then I walked the room a 3rd time with my good friend Rob, sports card therapist. We'd been planning this all week, both getting really excited, looking to make some moves, some big pickups. Him and I obviously buying different things. And I know he didn't pick up anything. And again, I'm not saying it was a bad show because it seemed like it was a good show. I mean, when I pulled in, I had trouble finding a place to park, right? And the place was crowded. People were buying. I just think it just depended on what you were buying, what you were looking for, what lane you were in. Um, you know, I'm looking for football. That's what I'm doing right now. It's all football. And most of the football I saw there was low end, and a lot of it was raw. Lately, I've been talking about, like, I'll go through these raw cards, and I've been finding some great cards. Um, but that grading window has pretty much closed on bulk orders for the National, right? So I have a few cards that I want to send off that I definitely want to have, by the end of July. So I'm sending them in at a higher submission rate right now. I can't send them in at bulk. And in fact, here I was praising these guys last week, right, at PSA, that 2 orders I sent within 4 days, and both of them have popped within 10 or 11 days. The third order I sent has been sitting there for 12 days. Well, now it's actually probably 13, 14 days, Sunday. Been sitting there 14 days, and it hasn't even been, all they've accepted it. They haven't even looked at it yet. It hasn't even gotten past the accepted. So I don't know if now there was like this big push going into it. But the other thing I'm thinking that might be the problem is the hobby boxes from Parkside, the NWSL, these brand new 2023 hobby boxes. And I included some cards in there, and I'm just wondering if they're not doing anything with it yet because the cards are so new. And I mean, I don't know. I know other people who have, who get cards and send them off immediately when these boxes come out. So and get them graded. So I don't know if that's the holdup, or they're just gotten busy now, and now they've taken the bulk order and kind of pushed it off to the side. So now I'm going to be sweating a little on this order to see, how long this is going to take, because I do have a couple of Desmond Ritter cards in there that I was really hoping to have back for the National. So we'll see what happens with that third order. But now I've prepared another order that's going to be these are higher end cards that I've had to wait to come, and I wouldn't have been able to put them in a bulk order because their value is too high. So they would have had to been at a higher level. But now you choose the level, right? You're doing it at 40, at 75, at 150, depending on how fast you want it back. So I'm doing, a few cards at a higher level. But, my point is that I think the grading window now is closed, unless you're sending it in to have it back faster than the bulk or the regular. That's like 65 days, because the days just don't add up now. You won't get them back. I did buy one card from my friend Ryan, War Chief Cards. It was a 2022 Origin Sam Howell rookie auto. I'll hold it up. You can see what it is here on YouTube. It's low end, but it's graded. It's PSA 9. And because I'm going to be in Chantilly next weekend, I thought I could probably move this pretty quickly. He gave me a decent deal on it, so I think I could move it rather quickly there for the locals down there. The show, it was fun seeing friends, hanging out, hobbying, right? But I was so sure I was going to find some great cards there. When you get yourself hyped up for something, you're like, oh yeah, I know I'm going to find something good. And I didn't chase. Like, I picked that one up, and there was one other dealer I had gone to that I know that had a few cards that I would have been interested in, but his prices on them were too high. And even if I was to, get them down a little, it was still, I don't think there would have been any room for me to do anything with those cards a month from now. So I just kind of passed on those. It's fine. I know I've got another shot at Chantilly next week, so maybe I'll find some stuff down there. But, as far as this one, I passed on those and I headed home, after the show. There had been a Trinity Rodman card I'd been watching on eBay, and it was one of those, when you're watching something that's coming, it's coming to an end. Earlier in the day, I kept looking at it. Oh, it's 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours. and the price was super low on it, and I was like, wow, this is going to be great. It's ending at like 3:30 in the afternoon on Saturday. You know, how many people are going to be watching this card? So I really had a feeling I was going to get a good deal on it. And I headed out. I was looking. I had more than enough time. I headed out to the store. I was picking up some stuff for the yard, and the place I was at happens to be one of my customers. I take care of their computers over there. And the owner came out, and we got to talking and talking and talking. And by the time we were done, I started walking away, and then it hit me. Oh no, that eBay. And I pulled my phone out, and I missed this thing by 4 minutes. By 4 minutes, I missed this card. And this card is probably a $300 card. It sold for $154. Oh, I was shaking my head. I just couldn't believe it. And after the morning I had, and thinking what I was thinking, and then coming home and then missing this card, I'm like, man, it's going to be one of those days. I know it is. I was so upset with myself not to, set an alarm on my, and I know people like my guy Rob, sports card therapist. He's got alarms on his phone when things are ending, and maybe that's what I should have done too. But it would have been kind of rude for me talking to somebody and be like, oh, hold on a minute, I need to bid on I need to bid on eBay. Give me a minute here. But so I missed out on the card, and it went ridiculously cheap. And it was my own fault, right? So what's left to do? There's nothing left to do, to cheer me up. So I went and bought into a break. I'd been watching. This is what I do when they're a little down. I have these little down times and down things in the hobby. I go chasing, right? And I think a lot of us do too. But I limit my chasing, that if I don't hit on the chasing, it's not much of a loss. But I did end up buying into a break. I bought into 2023 Select, the FIFA soccer full case break. Pick your player. Obviously bought Trinity Rodman, and I was excited. The price was right on it, and I was excited to hopefully get some cards, some Trinity Rodman cards out of there. And then the break started at 11 p.m. Saturday night, which was a little late for me, but I was waiting for a couple big W's to come through. And it went 2 hours. 2 hours for this break, and you can't believe the stuff that was pulled. I've heard of hot boxes. I've seen hot boxes, hot hobby boxes. This was a hot case. It was an absolute hot case. And if you ever watch, like, someone's doing a break and they got their little wall and the hot cards they pull out of the autographs they put up, and on a case like that, you're going to have maybe 10, 12 cards up there like that. They probably had 40 cards up there. They were moving cards around. There were so many golds and so many gold autos, all in to 10, and these true to 5s. And the women, the World Cup, the women's players, everyone except for Trinity Rodman hit. There were golds, there were 101s, there were greens to 5, there were autographs. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, and they do the slow roll too, right? So they're pulling. They're like, oh, it's U.S. It's a women's play, and I'm like, finally, Trinity. And no, oh my God, there's so many cards that came out of there, and I said, I can't believe it. I can't. This is the day I've had, right? Everyone who picked a woman's player out of this box hit big, and except for me, and even the men too. I mean, there was Mbappe autos, there were Erling Haaland autos. It was unbelievable. So at 1 a.m., I'm sitting here. It's the last box, and I'm thinking, this was disappointing. I stayed up late. I stayed up and watched this. And it's kind of as the show. It reminded me how the show went today, right? I mean, it wasn't a bad break. It was probably the best break I'd ever seen. But for me, it was disappointing, right? So you don't want to say, oh, that was the worst break I ever seen. No, that was the best. That was probably the most intense break I'd ever seen in my life, with all the cards they were pulling out of there. But for me, it was just disappointing, right? Because none of those cards were for me. I did, however, with 3 packs to go, the third to last pack in 12, a whole case, 12 hobby boxes. They did pull a Trinity Rodman. It was a white prism, numbered to 20, 19 of 20. So I was happy, right? I was happy to see that. Seeing all the other cards, the 101s and the gold to 10s and all that. I mean, those were unbelievable, but I was still happy. You know, the card definitely covered the break spot. Um, and I should have been happier, right? I should have been pumped to hit a card like that. But seeing all those other cards come out, I thought, man, there should have been at least a couple more. That was the only they pulled out of all 12 boxes. That was the only Trinity Rodman card that came out of there. So I should feel lucky. I should feel lucky because it could have been a crappy card, but it was definitely a nice card. And I know I know the questions are going to come in and say they want to go back and see this, see this box being open, the break being open. And I know it's on YouTube. It's under Rips Card Rips. And you can go back. It was Saturday night, the 11 o'clock one, and it was the soccer, the select soccer. If you want to go back and check that out, there's just so many cards that got pulled out of this case. So yeah, head off to bed. I wake up this morning, checking all my socials, and I find someone has posted this unbelievable Trinity Rodman card. I'm like, oh, this is my salvation. I'm going to be able to buy this card. Really, really interested in this card. Reached out to the person, and I made a pretty fair offer on the card. And they counter offered saying, literally, I just posted this up a couple hours ago. I'm probably going to be firm around, this price. And I counter offered 200 under their firm price because I feel that, if they're going to sell it anywhere else, it's going to cost them money to sell it. Right. If you put that on eBay, places like that, this way, I mean, if I'm doing a cash offer, then it's going to, it's going to save him some money. So I felt it was a really fair, counter offer, but then I never heard back. It's been, hours and hours. I never heard back. So either they weren't interested or sold the card. And that card was numbered to 10. So, and it had a really, really nice patch on it. So at this point of the weekend, I should just put my phone away, right? And just say, we'll start fresh tomorrow. But you know what? This hobby, I mean, it's a lot like life, right? It teaches us that all these wins, are so much more sweeter with the losses. So if we're just expecting the wins weekend after weekend after weekend, where's the excitement in it, right? If you're always winning. So taking a few L's, and I say L's, right? I mean, if this is the worst these are the worst L's I have to take, I'm definitely doing something right. So it really wasn't an L this week. It was just kind of a downturn for me, and it's to be expected in the hobby. I think we all go through this. And sometimes some of us just go buy cards that at the time they think, I don't know, they're going to make up for, right? I jump into a break because it's going to make up for missing a card or missing out on a card or not getting hyped up for a show that I didn't go to. I mean, I'm sure it's, a psychological thing, but I think we all go through it. I talk to people, I say this, and I say this to people in groups or at shows, and people laugh and they shake their head. So I know I know I'm not the only one that does this and goes through this. And then I say to myself, are these, like most things in my life, is this the worst, the L's I'm going to take? I must be doing something right because these are easy L's to swallow. And it's a down weekend. It's not even an L. It's a little bit of a down weekend. And you know what? I could still hear back on my counter offer, and I could end up getting that card. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen 10 minutes or an hour or 2 hours from now? As it turns out, and who could have planned this? But Thursday will be my 100th episode. And it's dropping on my birthday. Who would have thought when I started out 100 episodes ago is going to end up my 100th one was going to end up on my birthday? But I don't know. I just think that really, that's really kind of a cool thing that's happening that way. And I'll also, that day on Thursday, I'll be spending that day traveling to the Chantilly show because I'm going to be doing Chantilly next week. So, and I'll be hoping again, right, for some big W's coming out of the Chantilly show next week. Still just driving forward, pushing forward for national. So that's all I have for you today. And I will be back Thursday. Brand new episode, 100th episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.